Today, we are looking at the meaning that we attribute to things. And that thing that we are going to be discussing today and exploring and reflecting upon is blood, bloodline, whatever aspect of blood. We don't talk about it enough, but it's all over our lives. When you look at it culturally, socially, it seems to have a different connotation than looking at it spiritually or biologically, psychologically. Looking wider and seeing how our interpretations, our allocations of meaning to things can start to define how we embody those things in our lives, our emotions, okay, psychologically, in our thoughts and views and beliefs around that thing, spiritually, based on what the scripture says and what our own triggers and manifestations are in our lives of those things, but more specifically today, blood. Okay, my name is Aso, and I do mindset empowerment and growth videos to get us talking about some of those things that are almost taboo, that are everywhere but unspoken, or those things that we know but we are not really using effectively to move our lives positively. We all come into this life through a bloodline, down those ancestries and hierarchies, okay, those identities, those genes that put us into generational glories, identities, or even curses that we embody and we carry those bloodlines in a way that identifies and changes and builds us, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not. Our own very existence, our own very entry into this world is characterized into those blood groups, those bloodlines that define us even before our own actions start to shed blood or cleanse or heal or really enhance the healing of other people. And I think this is really something that has been playing on my mind lately in terms of all the different references and meanings and annotations that we give to blood and how it impacts us. It's a sense of belonging. This is my bloodline. This is my community. After everything is said and done, and even when problem comes, your brother in community, brother in ethnicity, is not going to hurt you as a stranger. And by stranger, we mean that stranger community. And I think those are debatable, but that's not the point of this conversation. The point is how we think when we go for those deals, when we look for those connections and engagements. Somehow your mind is telling you that you can go closer to a brother in family, a brother in faith, a brother in nation, a brother in team and community, because there's that pool of blood is thicker than water that you know will always rise to the surface of all the bitterness and the rottenness when you fight. At the end of it all, whether it's fighting, whether it's adversity, whether it's not even knowing that you're related, there's that internal gravitational pull that brings you together externally. Even when you're fighting and dissing and saying hurtful and painful things, you walk away knowing that some of that pain, some of that hurt, some of those triggers are the deep love within that you're struggling to manifest and communicate with the other person. We also talk about shedding blood for person, thing, project, country, and with that meaning and connotation, we are making reference to investment of our human bleeding capital in terms of the love that we give and the pain and sweat that we put into that thing based on our country, our land, our love, our families, and our societies, and whatever it is that is worth bleeding for or that we are made to bleed for. And when it comes to spirituality, we see blood in two ways. And the first one is that it cleanses, like Jesus literally dying on the cross for me and you, and shedding blood that cleanses me and you of sin and giving me and you a better life. But blood can also be that stain of sin based on what you take from where it doesn't belong by intention, in a way that the stain of that action on you is literally reference to the stain of blood on your hands. It's not something that everybody embodies in the way they see life. So we will end this reflection with the words of Hebrews chapter 10, verse 4. And I'm no priest, so this is my interpretation of it. And it states that for it is not possible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. Okay. And what that means is that giving the blood of bulls and goats is still sacrifice in blood. Remember that cleansing on Christ. Yes, that is bleeding for our sin. But not all bleeding is a blessing. Not all bleeding cleanses sin. And sometimes we feel entitled to our acts of bleeding for humanity, for country, for family, for love. And we hold people hostage to how we bled for them without necessarily seeing whether that was the blood of bull and goat and not necessarily in alignment with their own purpose, expectations, dreams. And that even though you bled, you did not necessarily transform their lives with that bleeding. Okay, and even if you did, that sense of entitlement around that service takes away the service, because Jesus bled, and I don't know about you, but I haven't been able to pay him back. I haven't had that over my head as a debt. Okay, it was a blessing, it was a healing, and it was something that caused us into action to live better, to feel better, to have more out of life, not to demand, not to expect, and not to have that endless sense of entitlement around how we bled or how we were made to bleed by other people. So think about this. Think about your own triggers, your own meaning that you attribute to this word, and your own sacrifices, your own toil, and really, 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 really start to do things differently. Start to serve and give and love differently. Have a lovely, lovely day.